Hey everyone, welcome back. This is part 2 of Jasper's journey from the very beginning of his cubing career to his world record 1.66 Pyraminx average. I can report for a fact now that this is part 2 of 3. Let's do a quick recap of episode 1. If you haven't seen episode 1, I'll stick it up in the cards here so you can go and get the full story. But quick recap, we went from Jasper starting cubing the first time we met in 2018 all the way through his hunt for the national records and then eventually getting those national records. In this next chapter, we're going on the hunt for the OCR. Will we get it? Who knows? Depends how well you know Jasper, depends how well you know the story. Part 2, let's see where Jasper takes us. Let's go! And that was it until Welcome Back Wellington.
In October.
Which I think was October 2020. So we had March to October with nothing happening, which to be honest, compared to the rest of the world, that wasn't too bad.
No, it wasn't.
Like a lot.
They had like 2 years.
Yeah, that's rough. So we'll be sensitive about how much we complain about that gap between March and October, because really we did okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, Welcome Back Wellington. That was the first comp that I'd been to after taking over as well. I just sort of came up for the afternoon to do some filming. Was there anything? Was that an eventful one? I think you had this. You had the single and the average. Mm-hmm. So did you beat the average then? I forget.
So that comp, I wanted to get OCR because at this point OCR average was 259. So I was pretty close already. I was only like 0.1 off. And then OCR single was 152. So my 164 was also close to that. And it seemed pretty logical. And I think at that comp I was averaging I was definitely sub 2.5. So it was doable. And in the first round, I started off with an NR single.
Oh, nice.
I got a 158. And so I was pretty happy with that first hop back after COVID.
That's a confidence boost right there.
Yeah. And then my next two were 2.5s, which I should have been happy with, but this was really the point where I started putting a ridiculous amount of pressure on myself.
Yeah.
And for the hour leading up to Pyraminx round 1, I was just psyching myself out, thinking about how it was going to go, and imagining myself getting WR or something, even though it was completely unrealistic. And then after I got a 1.5, I was like, oh, it's a 1.8 average, maybe I'll do it, forgetting that I literally got NR single.
Yeah.
And then so I got my 2.5s, I was like, oh no. But then I was thinking about OCR. So then the last 2 solves, that was really my goal. And then solve 4, I one-looked it, I was like, great. Oh yeah, side note, by this point, over the COVID break, I started one-looking all my solves. So at home, I had kind of consistent one-looking, but it was quite scuffed. Probably 1 in 5 solves or 1 in 4 solves, I would DNF by a 2-flip. And then sometimes I'd have to inspect for 30 seconds. So it was kind of sketchy, but I was doing it at home. And the first 3...
That's how we learn things though.
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually really hard to implement, but it's super worth it. So the first 3 I one-looked, so I was feeling pretty good about doing that in competition. And then 4th solve, I actually one-looked incorrectly. So I did my solution and then I had a 2-flip. And not only that, but when I went to solve the 2-flip, I had a huge lockup. So it wasn't even as good as it could have been, even with the mistake. So that was a 375. And then going into the last solve, I knew, because the problem with this is even though I wasn't doing maths, the OCR average was 259 and I had 2.5s. So I knew that I needed a 2.6 to get it.
Even I can work that one out. Yeah, that's simple.
And so the last scramble, I was inspecting and I found a pretty good solution and I was confident that I'd one-looked it correctly. And then, so I put my hands on the timer, pick up the cube, and then I just get a huge lockup at the very beginning. And then I finished it off and then someone yells NR because I got NR average. But I was just really, really upset because it was a 275 and I needed a 2.6 to get OCR.
Yeah, that's tough.
So that was really where my annoyed reactions at getting NRs started.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no. But then everyone was clapping, so it was kind of weird. But that was a 262 average, so I was 0.03 off. And my single was 0.06 off OCR single. So that was quite sad. And then in finals, there were quite easy scrambles that I messed up like the first two, and then Dwayne was doing really well. So that really, I was like really, really thinking about that and like, oh, what if he beats me? So then that made me like safety super, super hard. And I ended up getting a 2.9 average, which was good because it was sub 3 average and I'd been struggling with that before. But when I was averaging like 2.3, 2.4 at home, it wasn't very satisfying, especially after round one.
Yeah, yeah. So this is kind of the start of the modern story. This is the start of chasing the OCR and a pseudo like side story rivalry with Dwayne almost as well, because he was getting pretty good at Pyraminx and like giving the impression that he wasn't trying that hard, but he must have been grinding as well, hey?
Who knows? He's very mysterious.
Yeah. That was Welcome Back Welly, and if memory serves, next comp after that was Nationals 2020.
Yeah, Nationals 2020.
Well, there's a story there too, isn't
Oh
there?
boy. So
what a roller coaster
my
this
God.
was. Okay, strap in everyone.
Day two, I think the second to last event was Pyraminx round one. So you know what I was thinking about all day.
Might have been an OCR or two, yeah.
So yeah, naturally, all that time of thinking about wanting to get my OCR culminated in another important thing to talk about is like the travel arrangement. We had a really fun trip. We all traveled together and we were sleeping in the same room for accommodation. And that was really fun and it makes it like really good memories. But kind of the side effect of that is that I had really bad sleep for all the days of the comp. So
I bet you did. I remember being such a narc, just being like, go to bed and get sleep, all of you. Don't mess around until 1 a.m, because I know you will.
we did that, yeah. We messed around until 1 a.m. every night.
Yeah, every night, yeah. So yeah, get good sleep, everyone. That's a good lesson.
Yeah, that's the strat. When I was warming up, that was when Dwayne got Scube OCR average. He got the 240, which was WR8. Pyraminx was next. So it's like, okay, that's my time to do the exact same thing, right? And then I go up there and yeah, my first level was a 5.
That's not ideal.
No. And then I think I got like a 3. I was using a new Pyraminx and it was not good for in competition.
Was that the...
Yeah, it was the...
No, we'll definitely cut that out.
The big thing I remember from Nats 2020 for Pyraminx was I was having a lot of trouble one-looking, which I actually blame on my lack of sleep.
Well, that would do it. That's going to hit your cognitives.
And yeah, because of going for OCR and also the fact that it was my first nationals where I was actually like quite relevant, I had, for not just Pyraminx, for every round, I was shaking way more than normal. Yeah,
your mum, because we're in the process of organising another trip at the moment, yeah, your mum was just like, Jasper's not sleeping in a dorm again this time because that wrecked him. And I was like, yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. In fact, she wasn't the only cubing parent who was like, yeah, the dorms are done. That was a cool idea, but didn't really work in the long run. Yeah. It's not conducive to records. What solve are we on? We had a 5 and a 3.
Yeah. Then I think I got like a 2.6 and another 3 maybe. And then my last solve was a 1.9. Actually, that's all. I've tried the scramble and that was like insane. Like, I don't know how I got a 1.9 on that. It was really hard to execute. But I just didn't care because it was like 0.4 off in our single and I'd bombed the rest of my average.
Now, does it make it easier if you know you're going to have multiple rounds? Does it make it easier if you're bombing at the start? Is it easier to write it off in your mind and just be like, oh, look, that one's done. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, definitely. Although this was still in the point where I was like, every single round has to be perfect. And I was just putting so much pressure on myself and any one mistake, I would just get really angry. And I remember I actually threw my warm-up cube on the ground out of frustration and it exploded everywhere.
I remember that.
And I had to like pick up the pieces from onto the table. So the last event was OH, and I think I either didn't sign up for it or I just DNS'd because I didn't want to be there for the rest of the day because I was just in such a bad mood and I had no more events.
Yeah,
I was really, really tired. So I went back to the hostel and had a nap in my mum's room, and then we had like a barbecue, so that was quite nice. So then it was the final day of nationals. Because it was nationals, there were 3 rounds, which was pretty nice. And in round 2, I started with a 3. It was weird. It wasn't a lock-up. It was just my hands shaking. So, as I mentioned before, my hands were shaking a lot, way more than normal at nationals. And I also had a Pyraminx that was awful under pressure. So, I was like halfway through the solve and then and I just had this huge pause where I couldn't hold the cube. Like, I couldn't turn it at all. And then I finished like the last 3 moves. And I went back a while ago, and it might have even been like sub 2 if I didn't do that. And it was a 3. So that had quite a big impact on my solve. But then the scrambles were really good. So I got 2 2.2s and a 2.0. And they all could have been better, because as I said, my hands were shaking and the cube wasn't very good for under pressure, so the turning was quite bad. But they were still good times.
Yeah.
So then going into the last solve, I was like, okay, I need to get a low 2 average here. Like, I'm doing so well. And then the scramble was really, really bad. So I got like a 3, and then I was just really disappointed. And then someone told me that I got OCR, and for some reason I didn't care. Like, I was just so like in the red, you know, like just so laser focused on the fact that I'd messed up the last solve.
Yeah.
When I had counting 2.2s. I was just really, really sad. And then I was sitting there crying while my Oceanic record was being announced. It was so bad.
It was a confusing one. I was in a position where I was just like talking to your mum going, hey, I don't know how to deal with this, hey. Like, I don't even know what to say, like, because you just got OCR, but also you were devastated.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a tough one. But that's not the end of the story though,
no,
is it?
No, it's not. Then there was a positive note. So the end of nationals and finals, I was super nervous, and Elias had improved quite a lot. So he was averaging like in the 3s. So if I messed up, like if I did how I went in the first round, he could have beaten me. And I really, really wanted to be national champion so that I could have NR average, NR single, and national champion. So I safetied ultra hard in finals and just didn't go for beating my average at all. And I think I got a 303 average, which ended up winning. So that made me really happy. And then by that point, I'd kind of realized that I should be happy with my average, and I was really glad that I'd got an OCR. So I was like, oh yeah, I've got NR single, OCR average, Pyraminx national champion, let's go. And then 3x3 finals came in and came second out of nowhere.
That's right.
So I was like, I was on top of the world. But then I was watching the rest of finals, and I think I was sitting next to Naren, and he was like, I've got some bad news for you. And then he just shows me. And then I see on the phone, Riley Dexter, 213 average.
Riley freaking Dexter. We haven't forgotten Riley, we still remember. That was tough.
That just killed me. Like, if anyone doesn't know, in the WCA regulations, if a record gets beaten on the same day, then it doesn't count. So my OCR average became an NR average. And even though it was NR, like, I was just so sad. And the other thing was, I was averaging like probably like 2.2, 2.3 maybe. So the 213 was like better than average for me in comp. And this whole time I'd been like struggling to get mediocre averages. So I was like, this is going to be impossible to beat. I've spent all this time and worked so hard to get this OCR, and now it's just completely impossible. And I've got it and then had it taken away, so it doesn't count. It's not even that it just got broken immediately. It's made it so that on my WCA profile, it says that I never got an OCR in the first place. So
yeah,
that just made me so sad, and that made me really, really want to get OCR. Luckily, winning Pyraminx and podium in 3x3 made it so I wasn't like super sad or anything. But after the comp, like I just couldn't stop thinking about it. How do
you pack that away? Like, how do you resolve that in your head? You know, looking back on that now, do you know how you managed to get over that?
I don't really know. Like, that was definitely probably one of the hardest things I've gone through, at least in cubing. I don't think I really did anything in particular to get over it. Just time kind of went by, and I kept not having an OCR. But Liam was like, yo, Jasper, I'm making this Auckland comp 3 days before your birthday. You should come. And we're going to have, like, a Pyraminx. It's going to be great. And I was like, oh, heck yeah. And then my parents said I couldn't go. So I was kind of sad. Yeah. And then I was sitting there looking at the results. And here's Dwayne. He's gotten a 122 on a 6-mover. And I was just like, oh, man. Now I've lost my NR single. And he's gotten a CR.
you were working in the shop, and I came in past to say hello.
Oh yeah.
And you were just like, not a good day. That was rough. So yeah.
So I had a Pyraminx single and average happening that kind of ruined my mood. Although him and me, everyone kind of recognized that was pretty stupid. So
yeah,
I got over that quite quickly.
Was it easier that it was like one of your best mates that took it?
Oh yeah. That helped so much, yeah. And also just the fact that it was a single, and it's not like I already had OCR or anything. And it's not like I had OCR and then had it retroactively nullified or anything.
Yeah. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but that 122, that stood until yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm. It was OCR until yesterday, yeah.
It was OCR until yesterday. Far out, Dwayne. What the hell?
Yeah, next up was South Island Championships, which was...
Of course, SIC, April 21.
4 months after Nats. So leading up to that competition... After the 213 and the 122, I was feeling really down on my luck, and I think Ram Takar messaged me telling me about how I think it was with Liam maybe. He'd done this like style of comp sim that really helped Liam perform well in clock at the Auckland competition or something. And so he recommended it to me. And so every day I'd been doing this comp style practice for like a month or two leading up to SIC. I had like a really solid mindset going into the first round. And I also didn't set my expectations too high because although I'd been doing this comp style practice, I hadn't improved my times very much since nationals. So I was still averaging like 2.2, maybe 2.3. But I had switched to a Mr. M, which I felt like was going to be better under pressure. The first solve was a really bad scramble and I got a 3, but it just didn't faze me at all. And then the next 3 scrambles were like kind of bad, I remember, but I got like a 2.3, a 2.1 and a 2.0. I was like really, really happy with how I was handling my nerves. And then the last solve was a 9 mover, which was good enough to get OCR on, I think, to beat the 122. But then I just got a massive lockup and got a 2.6. So I was like, oh man. So the reaction to my NR average was another -1, but it was because...
Again.
Yeah, but this time it wasn't really because I was annoyed at the average. It was more just that I was like, oh, damn it. You know, on the last solve, because it could have been way better. Afterwards, I was kind of sad because if I had gotten like slightly better on my other solves and not messed up that scramble, I could have gotten OCR on that average. Because I had the 2.1 and the 2.0. For the next round, I was kind of thinking like, oh yeah, I did kind of fail OCR there, to be honest. The second round, Chris was on a call with Timon, so I had the world record holder watching my solves. And
oh, that's right.
I just did horribly. That was also when the Jono...
Yeah, thanks for that, Chris.
It was also when the Jono and Ben crew showed up. So I had like this squad of people with massive cameras like following me around. Got like a 2.8 average, which was pretty terrible by that point.
So yeah, for context, we had a New Zealand film crew was filming for a documentary at that competition, which was cool and great exposure for speedcubing, but it was pretty distracting. I don't think anyone was prepared for quite how many people with massive cameras were going to turn up.
It was insane.
Looked cool though, so you know.
So round 2. At this point, I have won my last 16 Pyraminx rounds. There's a certain someone, some of you may have heard of, by the name of Elias EU, who had been practicing a lot for this competition and had gotten sub 3 at home, which in 2020, when I was averaging sub 2.5, no one else in New Zealand was sub 4. So the fact that someone else was sub 3 was quite a big deal back then. And he got his first sub 3 average in that round where I screwed up and got the 2.8. So I lost my win streak there and came second in round 2.
I didn't realise Elias took that. Wow.
And then in finals, I started with a 3.4 and a 4.
Woof.
So I'd already given up by that point. But luckily I managed to do pretty well in the last 3. So I got like a 2.6 average. And funnily enough, so did Elias. So then he beat me again.
Did he actually?
Yeah.
So he beat you in the SIC? No way. I'd completely forgotten about that.
But I was just pretty happy for him, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I was glad with how I'd solved on the last 3. Yeah, that one I wasn't really very upset after that at all.
Was he on the team at that point?
Yeah. That was right. No, that was right after he got sponsored.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he got sponsored, then he came in and won SIC, and I was just like, wait a minute, like I wasn't expecting that. You weren't supposed to be that fast. What the hell? You weren't supposed to beat Jasper. That wasn't part of the plan.
So next up on the list was Nimble Napier.
Nimble Napier, yeah, true.
First round. So by this comp, I was averaging sub OCR or around OCR at home. I was like very consistently averaging 2.1. So my first solve was a 177. So I was like, okay, that's good. Then I got a 306. So yeah, I could get another good solve. I could get a bad solve. Who knows? The next scramble was really bad, and then I kind of panicked, and then I found some like random V solution. Did it. And then I got like a really easy case. So it ended up being a 214 because OCR was 213. So I had a 1.7, something that was basically OCR, and a 3. So it was kind of a similar situation to the first 3 solves of my 275. And this is where I started getting really nervous. The 4th solve was godly. I got a 168.
Nice.
So then I had a counting 1.7 and a counting 2.1. So then I only needed like a 2.5 to get OCR. But for some reason, I thought I needed like a really good solve. The 5th solve when I was going up was kind of similar to how I felt for the 275. Because it kind of felt like the same story repeating itself. And that last solve was like, I had like a similar situation with having to get a bunch of good solves in a row after the bad solve on the second one. And then I like had got an average, like a time that was like bang on what I needed to get. And so I just needed to do pretty well on the last one. But I was really nervous. And then I found a good solution. Well, no, that's a complete lie. It was horrible. But I turned really fast. And then when I got up to like the last couple of moves, I thought that I had to like slam down the cube because I was like about to get too slow of a time to break OCR. The 225 I ended up getting, I only needed like a 240. I think I needed a 249. So I could have gone a lot slower. And because I rushed, I ended up plus 2ing. So then I got a counting 3, but it was still NR.
Oh, was it? So it was another sad NR.
And I actually, I had to leave the venue because I was super upset. And my best possible average was actually tied world record. Like, if I'd gotten another 1.6, I would have tied Team On's average. I was completely devastated after that one.
There are so many points that have left you with these like really cruel shoulda, woulda, couldas. It's amazing that you can remember all of these times, but it's also amazing that you can remember all of the emotions as well. Like that you can remember the where it was spinning you in through all of these as well. It's incredible. So that was the end of the average, is it?
So for anyone who hasn't seen it, I would highly recommend to go and watch my 232 NR average because the video is hilarious. I didn't film it, and this was before the comp started being streamed. So what ended up happening is Ashley went on a Discord call with some people and secretly recorded my solves, but he went like 50 meters away from me so that I wouldn't like get psyched out by him filming. And so I had no idea this was happening. But then there were like 10 people watching my average. And the NR video is Liam screen recording the Discord call that's from 50 meters away, and it's on like Ashley's data, so the quality is horrible, and it's like behind the whole audience, and you can see me like in the corner, and I'm like, what? There's like one frame.
Some of our NR videos are quite sketchily pasted together. They're pretty funny. I think that might be a New Zealand thing. I don't know.
And then finals at Napier. My first 3 solves were really mediocre. I just kind of locked up a bit, and the scrambles weren't very good. So I was on track for like a mid 2 average or something, and I think I would have needed like a counting 1.7 to get OCR. So it was kind of like it was a pretty small chance, but I thought I could maybe do it. But then I plus 2'd my 4th solve. Yeah, then I gave up because there was no way I could get it. And then I did end up getting a 175 on the last one, and that was actually quite a good solve. So I was happy with that. And it was a 236 average, which was better than the NR from SIC. So both of my averages were better than the old NR. And it was also almost NR, because the one from round 1 was 232. Although I was kind of upset that I didn't get OCR, and that was the comp where I really wanted to get it. I wasn't feeling too bad, because I had Dunedin in 3 weeks, and I'd just gotten a pure sub-NR comp. So I was feeling pretty good.
So yeah, next off, we're off down south to Southern Scramble, Dunedin. Yeah, tell us the story of that one.
So before Dunedin, I made some questionable hardware decisions.
Oh yeah?
Which came in the form of loading up my cube with a ton of Traxxas 50k the day before the comp.
That is questionable. Jeez.
So then on the start of day one, I could like barely turn it. I was like wrestling the cube. And then I was trying to break it in for the whole day. And by Pyraminx round 1, which was like at the end of the day, because there were 3 rounds, so the first round was on day 1. It was still really slow. I think I was averaging 2.0 at home by then. Like, I was kind of on the verge of it, but I was like just sub OCR, because OCR was 2.13. I really, really wanted to get it, because I'd failed the last couple of comps, and I had 3 rounds, and I was actually averaging sub OCR. Yeah, and I'd already had like 5 OCR fails or 6 OCR fails or something by this point, so it was definitely on my mind, but I felt like round 1 was going to go kind of terribly because the cube was still too slow. So a combination of a cold venue, shaking hands, a gummy cube, and a lack of confidence led to a 2.4 average.
Okay.
Which was not too bad, all things considered. And it was also the first and one of the only pure sub 3 averages in New Zealand.
True.
Yeah, the worst solve was like a 2.6. So that was pretty cool.
That's great. Then, that's big.
On day 2, I woke up to a world record average. T-Bon got the 183.
Right.
So I was like, okay, that's cool. Maybe I'll get one too. Who knows?
Yeah, that's nice. That's cute, Timon. Watch this.
Round 2, the first solve was really good. It was a 195. So I was super pumped with that. Solve 2 was a really bad scramble. So I got a 2.6. It wasn't just like, my solving at that point wasn't like I needed good scrambles. Like, if I'd gotten that scramble at home, I probably could have gotten a good time, but I just kind of messed up. And the scramble added like an extra layer of things to go wrong, you know? So yeah, all the times I've said it was a really bad scramble, aside from Otago October, it's like an extra layer of difficulty. But I legitimately think it was impossible to get a good time on that scramble from Otago. It was just awful.
Yeah.
Anyway, tangent aside, the third solve was a really, really easy scramble. So I kind of safetied, and I was about to get like another sub 2, but then I just got mega shakes. I was shaking too much to drop the cube. Like I was trying to drop the cube, but I ended up doing some turns. So then I DNF'd, and so now I had a counting 2.6, which again, when you're going for a 2.1 average, is like, that basically just means it's game over. So at this point I'm like, not again. Now I have to get it in finals. Why does this always happen?
Yeah.
But then the next solve was a good scramble, and I got PR single. It wasn't NR anymore because of the bloody 122. But
Yeah.
I got a 155. So I was like, okay, that's all right. And the last solve was a good scramble too. So I got a 189. That average was 0.02 off of OCR with a counting 2.6.
Gosh dang. Yeah,
so that was
rough.
the 215 in our average. And to be honest, I couldn't even be mad with that because it was like 8th in the world.
Was it? Wow. Yeah, no, you can't. Yeah, you're not allowed to be grumpy with that one. That's pretty good. When you're single figures in the world, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and also just the progression of it where I'd kind of already screwed it up after the first 3 solves kind of helped with that, because it's like, yeah, I always prefer finishing well than starting well if I'm going to like have some bad solves. And yeah, without the DNF, I would have gotten a 193 average, which would have been 3rd in the world. So I was really upset about that.
Yeah. That's another shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Or if I'd gotten like 0.06 faster on any of the solves, including the 2.6, like on a slightly faster timer stop on any of them, I would have gotten OCR. Or just not DNF'd and gotten a 1.9 average, but yeah.
Well, yeah.
So that was annoying.
Yeah.
And then finals, my first solve, the timer like shut off halfway through inspection. And I completely messed up my solution and got like a 2.5. But luckily it was justified circumstances for an extra. I got another scramble and got a 205, which was like an average solve. So I don't remember anything about that, just that it was a 205. That was a good start for OCR.
Yeah.
Next scramble wasn't very good. Messed up my turning and got a 2.5. But at this point I'm thinking, man, I almost got OCR for counting 2.6 last round. This is fine, you know? And then the next solve, I got a 190. So I'm like, hell yeah! This is gonna be like Auckland Summer Finals where I choked the first round, then got in our average. Let's go!
Yeah.
We're doing this. We're doing this, lads. And the other thing is I knew I wasn't allowed to go to NIC, and there were no like other competitions coming up that I could like go to, I'm pretty sure. Like, so I knew it was gonna be at least 4 months until I had another comp. And this is finals. So I really, really, really wanted to get it there.
Yeah.
And then because of that, I got classic Jasper Murray syndrome. Just earthquake hands, and got a 375 on a good solution.
Oof.
And so forth. And then someone told me, who is sitting there doing some calculating thingies, that it was impossible for me to get even NR. I wasn't very nervous for the last solve, and I got like another 2.0. So
well, that was kind of nice of them then, actually. That was kind of nice of them to tell you that.
It was.
Kind of dealt with all the nerves.
So yeah, I got a 222 average, which, yeah, it was still pretty good. But I was pretty bummed that I didn't get OCR. At this point, it's been like 5 comps of not getting OCR, and 3 comps since the Riley and Dwayne happened. And so many close calls.
Okay, whew, there we go. We have got all the way to Dunedin Southern Scramble 2021. Jasper is still on the hunt for those OCRs. This one is a bit of a roller coaster. Hey, it's been a bit topsy-turvy. It's been quite the journey. The nerves are real. The hunt is real. Join us in part 3, the final chapter of Jasper's journey, where we'll take it off just from the same point and we'll go all the way to the world record. Speaking of records, this is the longest I have ever spent editing a video. I fully took on way more than I thought I was taking on when I started this project. At the time of recording, I'm in my 4th full day of editing right now. If you're loving this content, please consider hitting the super thanks button down below. Any money raised from this video series, of course, I'm gonna split 50-50 with Jasper, because without him, I wouldn't have this story to share with you. It has been an honor and a privilege to bring it to you and to have played my small part in Jasper's journey all the way through this. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I know these are long videos. They're a bit chunkier than what I usually put out, but I'm having a great time making them. I really hope you're having a good time watching them. While you're waiting for video 3 to come out, why not go and check out episode 1 if you haven't done already? And also, if you're new here, why not go and check out my Game of Cubes that I invented. Here's a match with Sean, aka Speedcube Review. And those are all the things I have to say. So, bye.